There is a huge shift in our society as a whole, but specifically when it comes to the tech industry, and you're either going to jump on the train or kind of get left behind. So today I'm going to go over some really helpful resources that you can use for business creation. Hi, I'm Courtney. I'm a college student right now that has created my own startup, and I've used a lot of these resources to get my startup from zero to actually functioning and deploying as well. So that's kind of what I'm going to go over today. The first site that I use that everybody really uses is ChatGPT. This site is really helpful for market research and actual business creation on the business end of things. I'm a tech major, so most of my focus in my actual specialty comes into actual coding it, but for market research, market analysis, TAM, SOM, all that whole jazz, I use ChatGPT and other prompting AIs for answering questions and giving me a good focus on what I should actually be creating. So make sure that you have a clear set goal and clear set things that your application or your website or your service will actually do. Once you kind of get that first step out of the way, you'll use Claude for coding. I use Claude within Cursor's IDE. For the front end, UX and UI, that stands for user interface and user experience. This is what you see. This is when you scroll through a website and you're seeing the nice little buttons and the minimalistic look. Now, in the olden days, you can just use Figma and actually create your own website, but now you can use AI. Figma has a make feature where you give it a prompt and then it will actually create whatever you want it to look like. For this and for all prompting in general, be specific as possible. AI is already doing majority of the work, so the least you could do is give it a very detailed prompt on what you're trying to create, because AI has this thing of where it all starts looking the same. So being specific in what you want, giving it reference photos, giving it ideas of the color scheme and the modernization of it all, those are things that you should really be specifying in your prompt for UX, UI, and just in general when creating the application. Like I said, I use Figma Make for this, but there's another great one that is still in demo mode, which is Google's Stitch. Very similar application. It gives you the UX, UI after you give it a decent prompt, and then also it gives you the source code for it, so you can kind of give your IDE assistant, your vibe coding assistant, whatever you use. I use Claude. I'll just give Claude their code, and then I'll say base it off of this, make it look similar to this. Take screenshots and submit it in as a prompt within my prompt. Now, the next thing that I use is Stripe. This is for payment processing. Another great site you can use also is Lemon Squeezy. Now, Stripe does take a cut for this, so obviously take that into account. Another great site also is Gumroad. That's more if you're selling digital products or something, but those are great resources as well. And I'll link some others in the description below, so you can kind of check them out, see what they offer, and see what aligns best with your business modeling. Also, take into account if you're publishing an application, especially if you're launching it on Apple devices, Apple does take a 15% cut. So, there are ways to go around it. You can bring your user to the web, and then they'll have to pay for their stuff through your website instead. Apple can't take their cut from your website, or you hike your prices up on iOS applications. There's different ways to kind of get around it. Stripe has a way that you can get around it with Stripe Connect. That's what I personally use in my startup. So look at the different options and make sure you're just being mindful for that. Also, in general, for publishing applications on the iOS or Apple ecosystem in general, you need to be an Apple developer, and sometimes that can cause a lot of roadblocks. So make sure you do your research in regards to publishing your applications as well. Not something people talk about, but it's something that needs to be said, because it's so easy to say I'm publishing an app or I'm launching an app, but actually getting it onto the app stores, it can grind some gears and kind of get in a gridlock situation. I had difficulties publishing my application on the App Store because of that. You can also use Vercel for deployment as well. This is also just helpful for getting your application, getting your website to users very easily. The next thing that I have is Supabase or Firebase for backend hosting. Now, this is where you host all your users' information, their username, password, house address, credit card numbers, all that stuff. That will be hosted within your SQL database, right? That sounds like a lot of yada yada, especially if you're not technical oriented, but in all actuality, it's pretty much just hosting your users' information. Now, a lot of people use Supabase. I use Supabase in a project that I'm in school. I really like it. I used Firebase for actually my startup. I am switching it over to Supabase. I really like Supabase. I like Firebase as well for user storage and then user authentication. The next one I have is GitHub. Now, if you don't know Git and Git command because you're not technically oriented, that's totally fine. Essentially, GitHub is a place for version control. So, version 1, version 2, version 3 of your application, this is where you store it pretty much. Now, as a developer, this is really great to publish on your GitHub because it shows that, you know, you're actually doing something and you're not just kind of sitting around twiddling your thumbs. GitHub is a great resource also for just learning coding and doing different projects and having open source help, having people help you out with your projects. Highly recommend checking that out and, you know, pushing your different versions onto GitHub of your application. You will need to learn some technical knowledge when it comes to creating a website, especially if you're using these, because, you know, you can create a front end here and a back end here, but you have to connect it at some point. So yeah, you'll have to learn some kind of like coding and some Git commands, but it's really not that difficult. I'm not trying to like push this off as easy. It is something that will take time, but I think it's worth it in the end. Now, honestly, that's all you really need to go and create a profitable company right there. You can use like Canva and Canva's AI for creating marketing strategies and marketing like materials for posting that kind of stuff. There's a lot of different marketing tactics that you can use, including influencer marketing. I'd highly recommend taking advantage of social media and publishing your application and pushing it on there. But it also depends on what your target audience is. If you're, you know, trying to get doctors and medicine offices, you're not going to go to social media. You're going to go talk to doctors and physicians and go to those different conferences and things like that sort. Now, I'm going to give you guys a bonus one because this one isn't necessarily for everybody, but this is for people that want to do AI and automation companies. I'd highly recommend checking out In8In and 11 Labs, because those are great sources and there's like a whole bunch of information within that. I'm going to be honest, I'm not too privy on that information, but I have personally like seen people do projects with those, and I found that the projects have been, one, super cool, and two, like really automated. Like they don't really touch the companies at all. So there's a lot of resources and a lot of YouTube channels out there, so I'll link some of my favorite YouTubers out there for specifically In8In and 11 Labs for AI automation companies. But for everybody else, that pretty much sums it up. Now, also for the back end, really quickly, I referenced Supabase and Firebase. AWS also has like over 200 things that you can use with it. Is it my favorite? No, but they're really great, especially if you're going into medicine and you like some kind of SOC 2 qualifications, which is like a cybersecurity qualification within like medicine specifically, making sure you like host patient information properly pretty much. Overall, there's a plethora of different resources out there, more than what I've referenced, but this is a great place to kind of get you started and get the ball rolling for creating a startup. If you want to learn about my specific tech stack as a solo developer, I highly recommend checking out this video here, where I talk about exactly what I'm using in my specific company's creation. Now, this one is very similar because I use all of these, but there's also some more because I am, like I said, more technical oriented and I am actually coding my application myself. So I'd highly recommend checking out that video if you are a developer and you want to add this in your personal projects list, or overall if you are a developer and you want any other resources. I'd highly recommend checking out some of my other videos because this channel is developer oriented. I'm here for software developers and creators of that sort, but in general, I'm here for business owners. There's a lot of resources out there. This is technology, and you'd be silly not to take advantage of it, especially because it's all here and a lot of it's free. My name's Courtney. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Please be sure to like and subscribe down below. Comment down what are some business ideas that you're cooking up. What are some things that you've seen that I haven't referenced here. I highly recommend checking out the description. Like I said, I post a whole bunch of resources in addition to what I say in the video. I highly recommend checking that out. And this and all of my videos are usually just jam-packed full of resources. Like I said, please be sure to like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time on Court's Corner.